Lesson 19 Collision Detection Walkthrough. So here's a simple program that I had you run. When the bunny reaches the bowl, they both stop walking, the bowl becomes empty. What code do you think would help the computer know if the two sprites were touching? Well, we just learned that we know we're doing the is touching block this lesson. So using math to figure it out, computers use math to figure out whether two things are touching. So the math in lines 17 and 18 is how to tell if two sprites are touching. Sorry, I have to laugh because it's ridiculous. But it's something you do a lot. So if you look at it, it says if bunny.x is greater than dinner.x and bunny.x minus dinner.x is less than bunny.width divided by 2 plus dinner.width divided by 2, or bunny.x is less than dinner.x and bunny.x minus dinner.x is greater than minus bunny.x divided by 2 plus dinner.width divided by 2. That's how you tell if those two sprites are touching each other. So if you think about it, they're these two rectangles, and it's checking to see if they're within each other's range of where their location is. So from their center of their x to the outside of it, which is the divided by 2 part. That's a lot to have to check every single time you want to know if something's checking or touching. So I'm not going to answer this, but I'm going to put a space here so we can run it. But it's checking to see if they're touching each other in the background. And if that's true, then it does all these things. But there's an easier way. We don't need to know all that math that's going on in the background. We can use the is touching block to do that math for us, okay? A programmer already created that for us so we can use it. It's still doing that same math in the background, but we don't have to worry about it because somebody already did the work for us. It's beautiful. So if you look here inside the draw loop, it says drag the is touching block into the if block. And then we need to check to see if the bunny is touching the dinner. And there we go. Much easier than putting that whole long if statement with all of the checks in it. So the blender should only turn on when the apple touches it. And so in this level, we want to check to see if the blender or the apple's touching the blender, then we'll do this shake part. So we're going to go into control and we're going to grab an if and we'll put that in here and we will check to see if apple is touching blender. Okay. So in this level, the balloon is popping before the tack touches it. So if you use your arrows, you can move the tack, and it's happening because there's something wrong. So what it wants us to do now is use the debug block to find out some more information. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to pull my console up. It says run the code and use the arrows. In the code below, change balloon .debug from false to true. So we'll turn that to true. And now you can see that. Now you can see what's going on. That green square around the debug lets it know, or lets me know that that's the amount of space around the actual image. So if you look at the balloon, it has all of this space. So one thing I'm going to do first of all is do that. I'm going to crop in that sprite. And now when I run it, it should be a little bit better, but let's look at this. It wants us to look at the tack and do, pull the tack debug in here. Tack debug true. So it's pretty close on to it. So I moved it up in there. So I wanted you just to talk about why didn't want you to fix it. That's silly. Debug is touching. Figure out why it's not detecting the collision. So let's do some debugging in here. We need to go to the sprites drawer of the toolbox here to grab the it says modify the code so that the collision is detected. Oh, inside the draw loop. Oh, good Lord. You just draw this in here. There we go. That's it. All set. And then this one. They should stop when they touch, but the colliders are the wrong shape. So this is something that I thought they were going to do in the balloon level, but they didn't. So if you run this right now, the colliders, do you see that, are set to squares. You don't want squares on a circular sprite. So we have to change these. So you'll change coin 1 collider from a rectangle to a circle, and you'll do the same thing. So I'm just going to copy and paste with coin 2 as well. So now when I run these, they have a circular collider and they actually touch. The assessment, it says when the rainbow touches the horse, it should turn into a unicorn. So add code that changes the horse's sprite appearance into a unicorn when the rainbow touches it. So I need an if, obviously, and I want to know if touching. So if rainbow is touching horse, I'm going to change horse's animation to a unicorn. Let's run it. Okay, so you could leave it just like that, but I think that you kind of need to look at the collision of that is not quite right. You probably need to change your, oh, it doesn't give you the option for it, so I guess it just wants it to be that good. That's not great. I would have changed, it so the collider was a little bit closer, but that's fine. But that's me being picky. All right, so we have a couple different collision challenges. So this one, it says angle the collider to fit the rolling pin. So colliders can take just more than just shape. So if you hover over the collider type and click on the see example, you can see all of the things that you can do with the collider. So the collider can have not only the type, so circle or rectangle, but you can offset it. So that's from the center to the outside, the default 0. You can set the width and the radius of the collider if it's a circle. So width is for rectangle, radius is for circle, obviously. And it's determined by the size of the pixels of the sprite by default. Height is going to be the height of a rectangle or the radius of the circle. And rotation offset is going to be the rotation in degrees of the collider with respect to the sprite. Default is 0. So if we look, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things after type. So if we want to change this collider, it says use the set collider. And then, so we'll say roller. And it wants us to add all 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the 6th one. Given the cucumber a collider that fits well, that's a roller. It's not a cucumber. Yeah, that's not a cucumber. Do you see that? That's a nice error. Says, all right, so I'm going to do 0, 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to tilt it 45 to the right and see what happens. Oh, that's not pretty. What are their defaults? So I'm going to go in and look at what those defaults are. So I wonder if I leave them blank, if it'll just ignore it. So 0, 0, because I want the width and the height to be the width and the height of the, I bet it's going to get mad. Yeah, the width and the height of that actual animation, which is silly because I don't know how big that is. I guess I can mess with it. So specify the X and the Y. Oh, that's not a fun one. I don't like this challenge. It's gross. So we need X offset, Y offset. Yeah, I want those to be 0. The size of the sprite. Yeah, I only want to set the offset, which is super annoying that I can't just choose that. I'm going to go with, let's do 20. Well, let's do 50 and 50 and see how big this goes. Really? Well, 45-degree angle isn't quite right either. There you go. Okay, so it's 30. That's right. I can't get the, I wonder if I start just doing this, it's going to do the initial, yeah, it doesn't like it. You have to give it all 6 of them. That's annoying. Well, the angle's right. X offset is 0. Y offset is 0. Oops, missed one. And then that next parameter is the width and then the height. That's better. That height needs to be a little bit bigger. Let's do 350 because that's a really big rolling pin. That's insanely wrong. How about 250? Still insanely wrong. Let's try 150. Not big enough. 200. This is a fun little game, isn't it? Okay, that's good. And now this width needs to be like 45. Yeah, that's perfect. That was annoying. Debug, add points on collision. Ooh, yay. This makes a game. So we look right now, we have this ghost and we can move it around. When the ghost touches the coin, do you see how it keeps adding points to it? We need to be checking to see when it's touching, but we need it to move the sprite to a new random location. I would move the coin to a new random location. So I would give it points and then I would say coin, and then I would do a random number for both of these. And it would be somewhere between, I would say 50 and 350 because I want it to stay on the screen. And if I do 400 and 0, it's going to go off the screen. So now when I touch it, it will just give it 1 point and it moves to a new random location, but I can keep that going. And that's it for this lesson. Sorry, it was a long one.